Welcome back, everyone, to our conversations here at CPAC, and I'm joined this morning by our dear friend, Father Frank Pavone. Father, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today.
It's great to be back. Yes, thanks for all the great work.
It's an honor to work alongside great men like you, fighting especially in the pro-life cause.
Right.
I actually wanted to start this morning talking about, and there's other things in the Supreme Court related to abortion that we'll talk about as well, but President Biden, reports are coming out today that he's made a decision on who he's going to nominate. And Justice Ketanji, I may be botching that pronunciation, but Brown Jackson is the justice that he is said to nominate to the Supreme Court.
Right.
You've already expressed that you don't think it should be somebody we confirm.
Yes.
Elaborate on that. Why?
Well, we have been in briefings in these recent weeks about 3 potential candidates for his nomination. And, you know, in one sense, it's sort of a fill-in-the-blank situation. We know the problem resides not just with Biden in particular or anyone who's helping him make these choices. The problem resides in the Democrat Party as such, which has become so radicalized, so extreme, so out of touch with the American people that really any nominee of Biden to the Supreme Court would be worthy of our opposition. Now, we happen to know that this particular one, for example, she's on record opposing even a ban on partial birth abortion. Now, this is the process where even in the process of birth, the child is killed. The American people have never gone along with this. The Constitution does not, with the biggest stretch of the imagination, justify something like that, and yet here you have somebody who thinks it does. Also, the freedom of Americans to protest abortion. There have been various laws establishing buffer zones whereby it's like a no free speech zone.
Right.
You can't counsel a woman inside that zone. She's gone on record as supporting those kinds of bubble zones. So we knew we would have a problem on our hands with anyone nominated by Biden. The good news, of course, is you've got a justice replacing a justice, but basically equally bad. It doesn't change the balance of the court. And so in that sense, you won't see the level of opposition and controversy that you would if, like the previous situation, with Amy Coney Barrett replacing Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Right,
it's
right.
not a shift, but it's still nevertheless important to oppose the nominee. Why? Because we've got to use this as an opportunity to teach the American people that justices on the court are not there to impose their own ideologies. They have to be faithful to the text, structure, and history of the Constitution. And if a right is not embedded there, they have no business inventing it. But that's what they've done with abortion and with a whole lot of other things, either inventing rights that don't exist or ignoring rights that do. And this is it's a bigger issue than any particular nominee. It's the issue of how are Americans and how are our elected officials viewing the court and the role of the judge. More important than a judge's position on an issue is the judge's position on a judge. In other words, what's my role, what's my authority, and what are its limits?
I think you've analyzed that excellently, and you brought up the point about how radical the left has become, be it on abortion, be it on free speech, a variety of issues.
Right.
They seem to be going more and more extreme, where people who would have otherwise found themselves somewhere in the middle or maybe even slightly left are now finding themselves being pushed to the right with the radicalism. And your assessment of the role of the judge is so great as well, because that's so important to remember. Yes, it would technically be a neutrality on the court. It's not going to change the balance, but the opposition on the sheer fact of her not understanding the role of what a judge should be is important to oppose, like you said, for the purposes of making clear to the American people that is not what a Supreme Court justice is about.
And of course, in this whole process of Biden appointing a nominee to the court, another issue that's come up, as you know, why has he been saying, well, first of all, where's his list? President Trump was the most transparent as well as the most successful president we've had. And he published that list. He says, here are the people early on, these are the ones I would choose for the Supreme Court. Why didn't Biden publish such a list, first of all? Secondly, why would you come up and say, I'm going to nominate an African-American woman?
Yes.
Those are not in the Constitution as qualifications for a judge. Woman, man, African-American, or any other background. I want someone who can interpret the Constitution and apply it I don't want. Why are we? This identity politics has got to stop.
Yes.
It's not good for America.
Yes, and it's an insult, frankly, to individuals who are qualified for these different positions that you would be chosen for something as meaningless as the color of your skin.
Well, and you know what? I mean, we're all on the same page, but it's worth saying. An African-American woman might, in fact, in a particular case, you look at her qualifications, might be the best pick
choice
in terms of her qualifications. In other words, it neither qualifies nor disqualifies.
Correct.
You got to look at the person's record, judicial philosophy, fitness for the job. That's what should count.
That's exactly correct. Now, on this topic of the radicalization that we're seeing on the left, we obviously know the Dobbs case is being heard right now before the Supreme Court.
That's a big one.
What do you think is going to be the outcome of that? Where do you see that going?
I have been deeply involved in this case. I've talked with multiple times with the Attorney General of Mississippi, Lynn Fitch, who's really great. And she, of course, on behalf of Mississippi, is defending this law, which, to review, protects babies in the womb starting at 15 weeks of gestation. Now, what does this mean? Mississippi had the strength to push back against the court because the court, since Roe, almost 50 years ago now, has put a barricade in front of legislators saying you may not protect babies in the womb prior to viability. Now, at that time, viability was about 28 weeks. Now it's more like 22. But that aside, prior to viability. Now, first of all, that goes against common sense because the more dependent a baby is, the more protection she needs.
Exactly.
Not less. So, first of all, this violates any kind of standard of common sense. But secondly, to limit legislators in that way is in no way justified by the Constitution. There's nothing in the Constitution about viability, just like there's nothing there about abortion. So if a state, through its elected lawmakers, the people themselves speaking in that way, want to protect babies in the womb, why shouldn't they be allowed to? And that is exactly what the Supreme Court is analyzing in this case. They decided to answer one question. Are all prohibitions on abortion prior to viability unconstitutional? That elective abortion, that is. I think that they're going to say no to that question. In other words, sure, you can protect babies prior to viability. I think that's what they're going to say in one way or the other. Now, as legal analysts can appreciate, I mean, there's two distinct questions here that Mississippi, two distinct requests they are making. One, uphold our law, and two, reverse Roe v. Wade and Planned Parenthood v. Casey, which upheld Roe, because, and this is the interesting thing, the arguments, the briefs submitted in the case are not just saying that these decisions legalizing abortion are unconstitutional. They are. It's not just saying they're immoral, which they are. It's saying they're obsolete. Things have changed, in other words, so dramatically. In science, we know more about the baby than ever. In law, pregnant moms have more protections and opportunities than ever. In culture, same thing. They have more of a support system than ever. The pregnancy centers that the pro-life movement runs and that I get to visit all the time around the country, they're far more numerous today than they were either at the time of Roe or Casey, and they outnumber the abortion clinics by about 4-1.
Wow,
so
I didn't know that.
You look at this and you say, wait a second, things have changed. And that's what motivated the legislators, not only of Mississippi, but of many other states, to push back against the court in this way and to say, this viability obstacle is meaningless and it's obsolete. Come on, we got to be able to protect these children because we know more about them now. Interestingly, in this Mississippi case, the district court that initially blocked the law, they were interested in one question only. Is it a pre-viability ban? Now, of course it is. Nobody disputes that. But the interesting thing and the alarming thing is they didn't want to listen to any of the other reasons why these lawmakers passed this law. The science, they closed their eyes.
Never mind listening to the science.
No.
Right.
That's right. Follow the science, right? The culture, all the other arguments, they were oblivious to it. They said only one question matters. And that's, I think, one of the reasons the Supreme Court ultimately took this case. It's like, shouldn't lawmakers be able to do their job?
Right.
Collect the evidence, have hearings. And look, here's what I say to the other side. The other side, I think we're going to answer your question in a very short way, yeah, we're going to have a victory here of some kind. We're going to have a victory. Okay. And what the other side is going to say is, you're taking away women's right to abortion. Listen, we don't believe in a right to abortion. But this doesn't take away the ability of a state legislature to keep abortion legal. It doesn't take that away. What it does is it says to the people, make your case. See, up to now, lawmakers could hide behind the robes of the judges. Oh, the court took this out of our hands. We can't do anything to stop abortion. And some of them are all too happy to have that excuse.
Oh, well, absolutely. They've been using it as an election issue to win, and then they don't do anything about it when they're in.
They don't do anything about it because
Exactly.
they said they can't. The court took it out of our hands. But now, if the court puts it back in their hands, what we need to be saying is, okay, to the folks on the other side of this issue, don't complain that somebody took away your right to abortion. What we want you to do now is make your case. Make your case to the American people. Make your case to the lawmakers that somehow it's okay to dismember these babies while they're still alive. Make the case. Because you can't hide behind the court now. It's no longer, you see, abortion has been plucked out from all the other issues, from all the other medical procedures. It's been plucked out and elevated to some kind of dogmatic constitutional status. That there's no reason to do that, but they did it. So that lawmakers can't legislate on abortion the way they would legislate on any other procedure to, ensure the safety of the people. And now we're going to take it back down, give it a rational basis review in constitutional language, enable the courts just to look at, well, does the state have a reasonable interest here that they're pursuing in passing this law? They don't have to agree with it. They just have to say, is this reasonable? And that should be the standard, not some kind of exalted constitutional right.
You're absolutely right. And the last question for you, Father, we're seeing a lot on social media, you talk about this sometimes yourself, that young people are celebrating getting their abortions online. If you're talking to a young girl right now who is considering an abortion or maybe has become so accustomed to trivializing it that it's no big deal, take the abortion pill, hop on over to Planned Parenthood to get the abortion, what is your message to her in regards to why this isn't something that she should be celebrating, much less posting online about as though it were no big deal?
First of all, we want to say to her, you're not alone. We understand the circumstances that might lead you to think that you have to have an abortion. You're not alone. We are with you. We want to help you and your baby no matter what the circumstances are. We, the pro-life movement, are able and willing to help. That's number one. Number two, listen to the voices of those who've done it already. We oversee the Silent No More campaign. Those that have had abortions and speak out about what it was like. And their stories are not pretty, but people can read their stories at abortiontestimonies.com. And we've got, and I would encourage such a person as you are talking about, no doubt, some of them watching us now, read the testimonies, watch those testimonies, and learn from the voice of experience that the road you're about to go down is not going to solve your problem. It's only going to lead to more problems. And listening to these testimonies will and does strengthen a lot of people to say there's got to be a better solution than abortion. And there is. That's the good news.
Father Frank, as always, it is such a pleasure to have you. Thank you for your ministry and the countless lives of babies that you have undoubtedly saved with the work that you do. We always appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Always good to be with you.